My 6-year-old son had end-stage renal disease and needed a kidney transplant. Out of everyone in the family, only my younger brother, Kevin, was a match. I'm willing to save my nephew, but business is business, even with family, he said. Losing a kidney will make me half a man. I expect my big brother and sister-in-law to guarantee my financial future. Kevin demanded I give him 2 houses, $10 million in cash, and 20% of my company stock. I refused without a second thought. This disease is a bottomless pit, I said, my voice cold. I can't ruin your life just to save my son. My entire family called me a heartless, cold-blooded Scrooge. But later, with my son's life hanging by a thread, it was Kevin who knelt on the floor, slapping his own face. I'm sorry, Mike. I was wrong. My wife couldn't believe it when I rejected Kevin's offer without a moment's hesitation. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. He's your brother, but isn't Leo your son? Kevin would only lose a kidney, but our son will lose his life. My wife, Jessica, and I had been married for 7 years, with only one child, our son, Leo. As the only kid in the family, we cherished him, treating him like he was made of gold. When we found out he had kidney failure at such a young age, our world collapsed. Jessica and I were the first to get tested as potential donors, but neither of us was a match. The only person who could give Leo a kidney was my brother, Kevin. When Jessica heard the news, she wept with joy and knelt before my brother, her eyes red and raw. Kevin, Leo is your nephew. Please, you have to save him. But even faced with her desperate pleas, Kevin stuck to his demands. The moment the assets are transferred, I'll sign the donation papers. My father, David, doted on his grandson. He turned on his hesitant younger son with a furious roar. We're family. You don't talk to each other like this. If you don't save Leo, I'll disown you. I don't have a soulless monster for a son. Kevin's body trembled as he choked back a sob. I'm a teacher. Pulling all-nighters to work on lesson plans is normal for me. Losing a kidney would have a huge impact on my life. Forget about promotions at work. My bosses wouldn't even consider me. And I don't even have a son of my own yet. This could end my family line. He turned to my father. Dad, you can't only think about Mike's family. I'm your son, too. I've already agreed to donate my kidney to Leo. Is it so wrong to want some security for my future? Jessica wiped away her tears and begged me, her voice cracking. Michael, money is just an object. We can always make more if we lose it. But if Leo is gone, I don't want to live anymore. I love my son just as much as she did, but looking at my greedy brother, I forced myself to remain stone-hearted. My father, hearing Kevin's justification, unconsciously nodded in agreement. He made the final decision. He's right. Michael, Kevin is giving your son a new life. He's your family savior. No amount of thanks would be too much. He looked at me, his voice firm. I'm making the call. We're accepting Kevin's terms. And when Leo grows up, he'll be responsible for taking care of Kevin in his old age. People have to repay their debts of gratitude. The doctors had told us that without a transplant, Leo would need dialysis for the rest of his life. That meant 2 or 3 hospital visits every single week, a dozen trips a month. Dialysis is agonizing. It wouldn't just disrupt his childhood. It would be pure torture. He was only 6. He might not be able to endure it. Some patients wait their whole lives for a matching kidney and die without ever finding one. But Leo was lucky. We had a match right here in the family. By any measure, as a father, I should have been willing to pay any price to get my son that kidney. But I just shook my head, my voice firm. No, I can't be responsible for ruining my brother's future. Life and death are up to fate. I guess Leo just has bad luck. Jessica flew into a rage, pointing a shaking finger at me. Are you insane? How did I marry such a materialistic bastard? You let your own son die for a little bit of money. Her voice rose to a shriek. If you don't agree to Kevin's terms, we're getting a divorce. I'll save Leo even if I have nothing. My father was completely baffled. Normally, I'd panic if Leo so much as scraped his knee. How could I suddenly become so calculating and stingy when his life was on the line? Michael, what on earth are you thinking? He's your only son. Jessica's pregnancy had been incredibly difficult. She'd had no appetite and was constantly sick. I saw how much she suffered, and in all these years, I never once brought up the idea of having a second child. In this situation, if Leo died, Jessica would never forgive me. But I couldn't let Kevin get what he wanted, no matter what. Sensing the tension, Kevin tried to mediate. Mike, I know my request might seem like a lot, but you have to understand, this money is essentially a buyout for the rest of my life. I'm trading my future for Leo's. His words were sincere, every sentence logical. But I remained unmoved. My reply was ice. A transplant isn't a magic cure. What if Leo's body rejects the kidney? We could end up in a worst-case scenario. Leo doesn't recover, Kevin is short a kidney, and we have 2 sick people to take care of in this family. My stepmother, Sharon, couldn't stand my cold hard-headedness. She clutched her chest, struggling to breathe. She started patting her chest to calm herself down. Money, money, money. In the end, you're just too cheap to part with your precious money. You're abandoning your son, and you don't want to help your brother. You're really something else. My father quickly started rubbing her back. How did I raise such an inhuman animal? It was Leo's bad luck for 100 lifetimes to get a father like you. Jessica was still lost. You've always loved Leo so much. Why? Why won't you use the money to save him? She was right. For me, that amount of money was a drop in the bucket. Our family didn't have much when I was growing up. To pay for my brother's college tuition, I got a job at a manufacturing plant right after high school. I never got a degree, but I saw an opportunity early on and used my savings to start my own business. I had a sharp eye, and in just a few short years, the business grew bigger and bigger. Now I was a man with considerable assets. Out in the world, people called me Mr. Thompson. To save my only son, no amount of money should have been too much. I looked through the glass window of the hospital room at my son's pale, weak face, and forced myself to say the words, fighting back the pain. It's better to rip the Band-Aid off. Instead of letting him suffer through endless dialysis and surgeries, it would be kinder to let him live out the rest of his days as happily as he can. My wife went berserk. She lunged at me, hitting me with her fists. What are you saying? Leo can live. How dare you sentence him to death? Jessica's long, manicured nails scraped several bloody lines across my neck. I pushed her away and yelled, "This is your fault, too. You spoiled him rotten, letting him have soda, fried chicken, and bubble tea every single day. He has kidney failure, and you bear some of the responsibility for that." Wah! So it's my fault for staying home and taking care of our child with all my heart. Jessica stared at me, her face a mask of disbelief and despair. A few family members of other patients passing by heard my accusation and looked at me as if they'd swallowed a fly. Oh my God, this guy is disgusting. I guess the kid isn't his. As soon as there's a problem, it's the mother's fault. Typical deadbeat dad. He never lifts a finger to help with the kid, so he has no idea how hard it is for the mom. Our shouting attracted a nurse on duty. "Please keep it down. This is a hospital." She turned to me. "Are you the family for Leo Thompson? Please go to the front desk to settle the bill." My father snatched the bill from the nurse's hand and shoved it into my chest, his voice laced with anger. "Stop shouting. You're embarrassing us. Go. Pay the bill first." I didn't take it. I let the stack of papers scatter on the floor. "I don't have any money." My wife's anger boiled over. She slapped me hard across the face. "You're insane." Seeing me like this, Jessica's last line of defense crumbled. She squatted on the floor and began to wail. "My poor Leo. Your father is an animal. He has the money, but he won't save you." Jessica pointed at me, screaming through her tears. "A divorce. You won't save him, but I will." Her accusations drew the attention of other families and patients in the hallway. People started poking their heads out to watch us. After learning what was going on, the onlookers stared at me with contempt. Unbelievable. He'd rather have money than his own son. I heard he's just going to let him die. So, he's just letting his kid die? What a scumbag. I bet he's got a mistress and another kid on the side somewhere. Why else would he not care if his son lives or dies? The nurse looked at me with disgust. "The child's condition is very serious. Even if you don't go through with the transplant, he still needs dialysis. Without it, he will die." She insisted, "You need to pay the fees now so the doctors can schedule the next steps of his treatment." I shoved my hands in my pockets, sat down on a bench in the hallway, crossed my legs, and didn't move. My parents frowned. They helped Jessica to her feet and comforted her. "We're not dead yet. He doesn't get to make the decisions for this family. Come on, let's go pay for Leo's hospital stay." Jessica had cried herself weak and was half carried to the payment counter. She pulled out the supplementary credit card I gave her, only to be told it had been frozen. The clerk looked at her sympathetically. "Ma'am, would you like to try a different card?" Jessica tried several cards, one after another, but none of them worked. Seeing that none of the cards were going through, my stepmother asked her impatiently, "Why are these all supplementary credit cards? My son gives you tens of thousands of dollars a month for household expenses. You didn't save any of it? What a waste." Jessica's face turned crimson with anger. She grabbed the pile of useless plastic, ran over to me, and threw them my chest. "Half of the money in this family is mine. On what grounds did you freeze my cards?" My father chimed in from the side. "Michael, this is wrong. You might be inhuman, but you can't stop your wife from saving my grandson." I let out a cold laugh. "I've given you both plenty of money over the years. Enough for Leo to live in this hospital for the rest of his life. Dad, you're so full of humanity. Why don't you pay the bill? Hypocrite. You ungrateful son." My father was so enraged he started having chest pains, his eyes rolling back in his head. "What a curse. Why did I have two sons who are just debt collectors? All either of you see is money. My poor Leo." With the nurse repeatedly pressing her, Jessica had no choice but to pull out a debit card to pay for Leo's treatment. I snatched the card from her hand. "I told you," I said, my voice sharp with impatience. "We're not treating Leo." Jessica's hands and feet trembled, and tears instantly welled in her eyes. She tried to keep her voice calm. "Michael." The first word Leo ever learned to say was "Dad." Even though I was the stay-at-home mom taking care of him, you were always his favorite person. As she spoke, her voice began to shake. "I know I haven't been a perfect wife. You don't like me sending money to my family. I'll listen to you. Just please save Leo." Jessica was a college graduate. She came to my company as an intern right after she graduated. Her warm and cheerful personality quickly won me over. Not long after we got married, she became pregnant and became a homemaker. Her family included a good-for-nothing younger brother who constantly needed financial help from her. But Jessica was gentle and thoughtful, and she managed our home perfectly. I had always turned a blind eye to her sending money to her family. Thinking of all this, I closed my eyes in pain. It's all up to fate. This is Leo's destiny. We can't force it. Kevin never expected me to be so stubborn, so completely iron-willed. He started trying to drive a wedge between me and my wife. "Jessica, stop begging him. If Leo's gone, he could just find some other woman and have a new, healthy kid. It's certainly a more cost-effective option than saving Leo," he added, his voice dripping with false pity. "It's just a shame for my poor nephew. Only 6 years old, and he's going to be tormented by this illness until he's barely human." Jessica knelt at my feet, her face streaked with tears as she pleaded in utter desperation. "Michael, give me the money to save Leo. I don't care how many women you want to keep on the side in the future. I'll never say a word. But Leo is my entire life. I can't lose him." A guy with sleeve tattoos who was watching from the sidelines couldn't take it anymore. He and another bystander started cursing me out. "This son of a bitch has no shame. He doesn't care about his wife or kid, just wants to fool around. Yeah, and that's his wife's card. Well, why do you have to take it? If you don't give it back, we're calling the cops." This is reckless endangerment. A few hot-blooded young men surrounded me, looking like they were ready to beat me with the bags they were carrying. Jessica seized the opportunity, lunging forward and snatching the debit card from my hand. I moved to get it back, but the angry crowd blocked my path, pushing and shoving me, shouting about justice. "Ma'am, go pay the bill. Don't worry. We won't let this scumbag get near you. You animal. You messed with the wrong people today. You won't even save your own son. I hope you die alone with no one to bury you." Jessica bowed her head repeatedly in thanks, then rushed to the payment counter and deposited the entire contents of the card, a total of $50,000, into her son's medical account. It was her emergency fund, money she had saved up just in case. Seeing that it was done, I looked at my wife with a sense of bitter disappointment. "You fool. Leo isn't my son." Jessica's breathing became rapid and shallow. She looked at me, her eyes filled with guilt and panic. "What are you talking about? You're the one who's been fooling around with your secretary, and now you're trying to accuse me of cheating. Are you even human?" I pulled out 2 DNA test reports and looked at her with pure sarcasm. Leo is not my son, and he's not your son either. Jessica stared at the reports, her world spinning. She nearly fainted from the shock. How is that possible? I laughed coldly, a hint of schadenfreude in my voice. I know this is a lot to take in. After all, you always thought. I paused, my tone deliberate. After all, you always thought Leo was your own flesh and blood. This must be very hard to accept. Jessica didn't notice the venom in my words. She was frantic, her speech jumbled. Michael, then where's our baby? If you're saying Leo isn't our son, then where's the child I carried for 10 months? She grabbed my arm. How could he not be my son? I saw him come out of my body. Did you make a mistake? Jessica's body swayed, and she could barely stand. She shakily reached for a chair and sat down, grabbing the DNA reports and clutching her head. My baby. Where's my baby? The crowd of onlookers was stunned. Whoa, this is a plot twist on top of a plot twist. At first, I thought he was just a deadbeat dad. Then when he showed the DNA test, I thought it was a cheating scandal. But he said the kid isn't the woman's either. So what's the real story? Switched at birth. It's always switched at birth, just like in the movies. As the crowd buzzed with speculation, the men who had surrounded me backed away, laughing awkwardly. A misunderstanding. It was all a misunderstanding. Hey man, you should really explain things to your wife. It would be a shame to see your family fall apart over something like this. A few people in the crowd still thought I was in the wrong. Who knows if he's just making this up so he doesn't have to pay for the treatment. It's pretty convenient that he finds out the kid isn't his right after he gets diagnosed with kidney failure. No matter what, that's a human life. Saving a life is the best thing you can do. Letting someone die makes you an animal. An adopted son is still a son. It was fate that brought you together. My eyes were like daggers. My voice was low and menacing. All right then. The treatment costs are over $100,000 a year, plus a few $100,000 for the surgery. Why don't you pay for it, big shot? Saving a life is the best thing you can do, right? You wouldn't want to be an animal who lets someone die, would you? Are you crazy? It's none of my damn business. Exactly. It's none of your damn business. So get lost. Jessica's eyes were vacant. She threw herself at me, grabbing my arm and sobbing. What have you been hiding from me? Tell me, where's our child? I think Kevin can answer that question for you. I glare at my brother, who is hiding behind my father, looking guilty. Right, little brother? Kevin's face changed, and he avoided my gaze. Huh, Mike, what are you talking about? He turned to our parents. Mom, Dad, look at him. He'll say anything to get out of saving Leo. My father, who had just caught his breath, immediately jumped to the defense of his favorite son. Michael, even if Leo isn't your son, you've raised him for 6 years. Don't 6 years of love mean more than blood? He pleaded, the boy is still so young. Can we just get him through the surgery first and talk about this later? Kevin put on a magnanimous air. Exactly. Even if Leo isn't my nephew, I still care about him. I'm still willing to donate my kidney to him. His voice was filled with pain and regret. Mike, fine. I don't want the company stock. Just give me the houses and the cash. My fists clenched so tightly my knuckles were white. I ground my teeth. I couldn't contain my rage any longer. Enough. The shamelessness of this family is unbelievable. You're still trying to scheme at a time like this. I sneered. I guess it makes sense. Even though Leo isn't my son, he's still your grandson, David. But whether Leo Thompson lives or dies has nothing to do with me anymore. I'm done with him. If you want to save him, you save him. You won't get a single penny from me. My father, David, was used to me doing whatever he said. His face turned shades of purple and red, and he almost choked, fumbling in his pocket for his nitroglycerin pills and swallowing one. When he saw that his secrets were out, he dropped all pretense and shot back, his face flushed. You ungrateful brat. Why are you so petty? Even if Leo isn't your son, his last name is still Thompson. You don't have a son anyway, so what's wrong with having Leo take care of you in your old age? He yelled. A man needs a son to carry on his name. Otherwise, you can't hold your head up high. Jessica was stunned, gasping out loud. Michael, are you saying Leo is Dad's illegitimate grandson? Her eyes darted around frantically. Then who are Leo's parents? And where is our child? I snorted, my eyes blazing with fire. I reached behind David and dragged Kevin out from where he was hiding. Kevin lost his balance and fell to the ground. I raised my foot and kicked him hard in the chest. He yelped in fear, covering his head with his arms. Mike, are you crazy? I'm your brother. Hearing that just made me angrier. I grabbed the collar of his shirt and hauled him to his feet. You animal. If you know I'm your big brother, then why would you do something so monstrous? Mike, I don't know anything. I'm innocent. I swung my arm and slapped him, once on the left, once on the right. Smack, smack, smack. In moments, Kevin's face was swollen and bruised, blood streaming from his nose. You bastard. As your older brother, I think I've done right by you. I dropped out of high school and went to work so you could go to college. Is this how you repay me? My father and stepmother always favored their younger son. They showered Kevin with love and affection, while I was given all the responsibility. As the older brother, they always told me to give in to Kevin, to protect him, to love him. Kevin could play around as much as he wanted, while I was doing chores from a young age, working the fields, chopping firewood. I grew up using Kevin's hand-me-downs. The year I was a junior in high school, David was laid off from his job, and our family's income vanished. He was too old and in poor health, and he couldn't find another job right away. So he told me to drop out and go to work. He called it getting a head start in the real world and helping the family through a tough time. Kevin and I were only a year apart, and my grades were at the top of my class. But David chose to sacrifice my future to let my less accomplished brother continue his education. Later, when my business took off and I became successful, my father and stepmother transformed into loving parents, always talking about how hard it was for them to raise two children. Even though I had resented their decision, the moment I felt their attention on me, I chose to forgive them. All these years, I was a filial son and a caring brother. And what did I get in return? My child was swapped at birth, my own flesh and blood left to suffer. And now they were trying to use this fake son to blackmail me for my assets. A family like this? I was better off without them. Kevin's cheeks were swollen high as he stammered. I know. You've been good to me, Mike. I'm really grateful. I laughed coldly. Oh, really? And your way of showing gratitude is to swap my child at birth and let your own son take his place like a cuckoo in the nest. Even as I beat him half to death, Kevin refused to admit it. Mike, where did you hear this nonsense? I really don't know anything. I planted my foot on his chest, my voice savage. This is your last chance to confess. Kevin, gritting his teeth through the pain, trembled and said, I really don't know. My stepmother, Sharon, was frantic. She started hitting me with her purse. You wicked boy, let him go. I've already called the police. She defended him. You've beaten Kevin this badly. He can't be lying. I sneered. Good. When the police get here, I'm reporting Kevin for trafficking my child. Sharon threw herself over Kevin to protect him and blurted out, Nonsense. It's not trafficking when it's all in the family. If you dare say a word of this to the police, your father and I will disown you. I let out a short, sharp laugh. Mom, do you think you're worthy of that title? Looking at this hypocritical, scheming woman, this snake who was in the same nest as her son, I said with disgust, You're nothing but the mistress who seduced David while my real mother was pregnant. After you two drove my mother to her death, you took her dowry to live your high life, while you abused her only child. Don't you have a conscience? My father's jaw dropped. He stared at me, frozen. How did you? I smiled. Heaven has eyes. He'll let me find out the truth. David, I could let it go that you mistreated me, but you mistreated my child too. I'm your son. Don't you feel even a little bit of guilt? David felt no guilt at all. In fact, he seemed to think he had done the right thing for the greater good. Your mother died. Am I not allowed to remarry and find a caring partner? A stepmother's care is more important than a birth mother's. Sharon may be your stepmother, but she treated you and Kevin equally. She raised you. You have to respect her. Yes, you raised me. That's all. The money I've given you over the years has more than repaid that debt. But what about what you owe me? What you owe my child? How do you plan to repay that? David's face flushed a deep red. He craned his neck and shouted, Even if Leo isn't your son, he's still your nephew. Isn't it better to raise your nephew to inherit the business than to raise some little girl? Jessica couldn't believe what she was hearing. The truth was shattering her reality. She grabbed my arm, sobbing uncontrollably. So, our baby was swapped by my brother-in-law, and your parents knew about it? Jessica glared at them, her heart consumed by rage. What right did you have to take my baby? You're all monsters. I won't let you get away with this. David was defiant. This is men's business. What are you getting involved for? It's your own fault for giving birth to a girl. Michael has a huge business. It needs a boy to inherit it. Leo is a boy. You should be grateful he was willing to be your son. Hearing those words, the rage inside me finally exploded. My hands were clenched into fists, my shoulders trembling. Just because Jessica had given birth to a girl, David had turned a blind eye to the monstrous actions of Kevin and his mother. You could try telling that to the police. See if they let your precious younger son off the hook for that reason. David's lips moved, but no sound came out. He wanted to say something, but he knew any words would be useless. Or perhaps, at this point, nothing he could say would matter. I was no longer the naive fool who craved his parents' affection. There were 1,000 things he could have said, but in the end, all David could manage was a weak attempt to cover his tracks. Michael, Dad, did it for your own good. Huh. Perhaps the look on my face was too sarcastic because David, who had no leg to stand on, suddenly found his voice again in a surge of emotion. He roared, "What do you want? I want my daughter back, and I want all of you to pay for what you've done." People in the payment hall pulled out their phones and started recording. Oh my God, so this guy's baby was swapped by his own family. It's because they wanted a boy. They let the rich older brother raise their son so he could inherit the fortune. What a plan. But you can't expect much from a man who cheated on his pregnant wife. Kevin saw what was happening and quickly used his jacket to cover his face, warning the crowd, "Stop filming. You're violating our privacy. I can sue you for this." Kevin's mother, Sharon, stood in front of her son, trying to block the cameras. "Did you hear him? Stop filming." Kevin was a public elementary school teacher. His reputation was everything. If the school found out about this, it would affect his evaluations, and in a worst-case scenario, he could be fired. Some people were defiant, while others didn't want to miss out on a video that was clearly going to go viral. "Who's filming your face?" "I'm filming the hospital floor." "Is that illegal?" "Oh, so you're the legal expert here?" "Well, so am I." "We'll blur your faces when we upload the video. But for an ungrateful bastard like you, someone will probably figure out who you are anyway." Ha ha ha. "Well, I'm so scared, but I'm still going to film. It's not like I have any kids for a kidnapper like you to swap." The more Kevin and his mother tried to stop them, the more rebellious the crowd became. People who hadn't even planned on filming now took out their phones in outrage and pointed them at the shameless mother and son. "Hey everyone, look! The mistress's son knows how to burrow his way in. Like mother, like son. The mother's a homewrecker, and the son steals other people's babies." The Cuckoo in the Nest, starring this mother-son duo. Who did it better? The comments from the crowd grew uglier and uglier. Sharon, enraged, charged into the crowd to try and snatch a phone. "You're crazy. I'm calling the cops if you don't stop." The scene descended into chaos just as 2 police officers walked in. "What's going on here? What's all this? Who called the police?" Kevin's eyes darted around. He shot his hand up and rushed forward. "I did. There's been an assault." Seeing the police, Sharon's posture straightened. She pointed a finger at the onlookers and said with a shrill voice, "My son said they're violating our portrait rights." She demanded, "Officers, arrest all of them." Kevin ran to the officers, pointing at me. "Officers, look at my face. It was him. He attacked me for no reason." I stepped forward and admitted it. "That's right, I hit him, because this soulless animal swapped my baby at birth." I declared, "I want to press charges against all 3 of them for child trafficking." Given the seriousness of the accusation, the police took all of us to the station to file a report and begin an investigation. What struck me as odd was that, on the way there, Kevin wasn't scared at all. His confidence made me uneasy. He had to have an ace up his sleeve. My mind went back to a few months ago. That was when Leo started to seem off. His appetite plummeted. He wouldn't eat or drink anything. He even lost interest in his favorite fried chicken and soda. At first, we just thought he was being a picky eater and didn't worry too much. Jessica tried all sorts of new recipes to tempt him. It wasn't until Leo started having diarrhea and vomiting that we realized something was seriously wrong. We took him to the hospital for a checkup. The results showed his creatinine levels were abnormally high. The doctor had us do further tests, and the final diagnosis came back: chronic kidney disease, stage 5. Jessica and I felt like our world had ended. Our son was only 6. How could he have uremia? I took Leo to several different hospitals, but the results were always the same. I had no choice but to accept the truth. The doctor said there were only 2 paths for chronic kidney disease: either rely on dialysis to barely sustain life or get a kidney transplant. If we couldn't find a suitable donor, Leo would be on dialysis forever. A little boy like him, how much suffering would he have to endure? So, when I learned that Kevin was a match for Leo, I told myself that my brother would be our family savior from now on. I would agree to any demand he made, as long as he was willing to save Leo. But then, I discovered that Leo wasn't my son at all. That day, Kevin and his mother came to the hospital room to see Leo and discuss the kidney donation. I was in the bathroom washing fruit, and they thought I had left. The two of them began shamelessly plotting how to use the donation to get as much as they could for me. I didn't pay too much attention at first. After all, donating a kidney was a serious matter, and it was understandable that my brother would want some security. At first, Kevin didn't want to donate. "Mom, do we really have to do this? I heard donating a kidney is really risky. With only one kidney, I won't even be able to run as fast as a normal person." "Don't be ridiculous." I asked the doctor. "They said you can live a perfectly normal life with one kidney." Kevin's hesitation and fear were natural. I understood. Leo was his nephew, not his son. I was about to go out and plead with him. But then, what Sharon said next hit me like a bolt of lightning. I stood frozen in the bathroom, listening to their entire conversation. "Leo is your own flesh and blood. It took all my effort to swap him with Michael's daughter. In the future, everything Michael has will be Leo's. Once Leo inherits the family fortune, you'll be like a king. Our good days are just beginning." "Mom, Leo's only 6. How long will I have to wait for him to inherit the business?" "You fool. Your brother adores Leo. This kidney donation is your chance to squeeze him for whatever you want. We'll start by taking some interest, ask for houses, money, things like that." It was like a light bulb went on for Kevin. "Mom, you're a genius. I should have known. If it wasn't for your brilliant plan to swap the babies, we wouldn't be living this good life now. Of course, your idiot brother treats me like his own mother. He's as stupid as his real mom was. I've had him wrapped around my finger for years. He deserves to raise our child for us. You're the one with the foresight, Mom. If I had to raise Leo myself, the medical bills alone would be a nightmare. How would a high school dropout like my brother get so successful? He deserves to have me holding this over his head for the rest of his life." After they left the room, I walked out of the bathroom, my face dark. I looked at Leo, still sleeping on the bed, and I couldn't believe the absurdity of it all. I stood there stunned for a long time before cutting a lock of Leo's hair to get a DNA test. I picked up the phone and called my assistant. "Liam, I need you to hire a private investigator for me. I have something I need you to look into." I never imagined the investigation would uncover so much. Not only were my parents and brother deceiving me, but my beloved wife also had a secret she was hiding. Looking at the report from the private investigator, I felt like my entire life was a joke. My father cheated on my mother with a mistress while she was pregnant. After he drove his wife to her death, he immediately moved the mistress into our home. And I, like a fool, had looked up to that mistress as my own mother for decades. Seeing my business grow larger and larger while Kevin was just a salaried worker, Sharon hatched a venomous plan when Jessica and Kevin's wife became pregnant at the same time. She swapped our 2 children, ensuring her own biological grandson would inherit everything I owned. My father discovered the swap by accident, but because my wife had given birth to a daughter, he became an accomplice. His excuse was the Thompson family fortune can't be left to a little girl. They were my family, yet each of them was scheming against me with their own selfish motives. I had always known that Kevin and his wife didn't like their daughter. They had sent the child to live with their maternal grandparents in the countryside. I just thought they were old-fashioned and preferred boys. I never imagined they were mistreating my daughter. Thinking of the frail little girl I had only seen a few times, a sharp pain pierced my heart. At the police station, we were taken to separate rooms for questioning. Kevin's injuries weren't even serious enough to be classified as minor assault. Since it was a case of domestic violence between relatives, the police mediated. I ended up paying a few $100s in medical fees. As for the case of my swap daughter, Sharon was detained for questioning. Kevin was released shortly after. I was furious. Officer, why was Kevin released? He was part of the plan to swap my daughter. The perpetrator, Sharon, has confessed to everything regarding the child swapping. She claims she acted alone. All the evidence indicates that Mr. Kevin Thompson was not involved. Without any evidence of his involvement, we cannot legally detain him. Kevin shot me a triumphant smirk. I'm not an idiot, Mike. As a law-abiding citizen, why would I do something illegal? Seeing his smug, shameless expression, I want to tear him apart. Impossible. Kevin is an accomplice. There's no way he wasn't involved. And David knew and didn't report it. That's harboring a criminal. But no matter how much I protested, it was useless. The actual swap had been single-handedly orchestrated by Sharon. Kevin had just reaped the benefits. He was smart. He hadn't left a single trace of his involvement. Even with everything out in the open, as long as he insisted he knew nothing, no one could touch him. At that moment, the three of them, my father, my brother, and my stepmother, were united, throwing Sharon under the bus to protect themselves. David and Kevin were in the clear. Why? If Kevin didn't know, then why did he abuse my daughter? Well, Mike, that's obviously because I'm a misogynist who prefers boys. There's no law against that. Kevin strolled arrogantly out of the police station. I was so angry I lunged after him, wanting to beat him again, but the police held me back. Calm down. Assault is a crime. We've already sent officers to pick up Kevin Thompson's daughter. We'll need you and your wife to provide DNA samples for a paternity test. Once the results confirm she's your child, you can take her home. Jessica was thrilled to hear she would see her daughter soon. But when she heard we both needed to do a paternity test, a look of panic crossed her face. She forced a calm expression. Oh, I can do the paternity test. Michael, you should go to the hospital and deal with Leo's situation. I laughed coldly to myself, but kept my face neutral. There's no rush. A DNA test won't take long. Jessica stiffened, her face turning pale. After we gave our samples, the police told us the results would be ready in about 2 hours. Jessica's eyes lit up. She said, trying to be helpful, Michael, why don't I wait here for the results? You go to the hospital and handle the situation with Kevin. We can't let them get away with this. I didn't expose her little game. I just nodded. I went to the hospital's billing department and requested a refund for the money my wife had prepaid. They couldn't refund what had already been used for treatment, but I got the rest back. I went to the hospital room and looked at Leo one last time, my mind flashing with memories of our time together. I had raised him from a tiny infant to the boy he was now. I had poured all my love into him, and I had wished for nothing more than his health and happiness. But as innocent as Leo was, my daughter was even more innocent. While Leo was growing up happy in my arms, my daughter was in the countryside, hungry and neglected. Leo, I thought, if you have to blame someone, blame your selfish biological father. Blame your snake of a grandmother. I instructed my assistant to cancel all the supplementary cards I had given to David and his family. I put the house they were living in up for sale. Kevin was selfish and cold. Without the monthly allowance I gave them, his salary alone wasn't enough to support their lavish lifestyle. He was disgusted by his sick son. After all, it wasn't like he couldn't have another child. Kids could be replaced. Kevin wanted nothing to do with Leo. David couldn't bear to part with his grandson, but without a house, he had no choice but to move in with Kevin. He had no retirement savings, and his money was dwindling. After weighing the pros and cons, he too abandoned his beloved grandson. Kevin's wife, though she had been cruel to my daughter, truly loved her own son. After seeing her husband's cold-hearted nature, she decisively divorced him and left with Leo. Kevin didn't care. A wife and a child. He could always find new ones. He was an elementary school teacher, a stable and desirable profession. A man, after all, only gets better with age. When I got home, I personally decorated a room to welcome my daughter. Meanwhile, at the DNA lab, an anxious Jessica received a big surprise of her own. With the test results in hand, Jessica brought our daughter home. The girl was the same age as Leo, but she was half his size. She was skin and bones without an ounce of flesh on her. She stood nervously in the living room, picking at her fingers, her eyes filled with fear and insecurity. "Hello, Uncle," she whispered. I fought back a wave of grief and pulled my daughter into my arms. "Not uncle, sweetheart. I'm your father. My voice was thick with emotion. Welcome home, my little princess. I'm so sorry. It's all Daddy's fault. But now that I'm here, you'll never have to suffer again. My daughter couldn't hold it in any longer and started to cry. It was a quiet, kitten-like whimper, as if she was afraid of making too much noise and bothering someone. Seeing her like this, I knew exactly what kind of life she had lived. I gently patted her back, soothing her. Don't be afraid. In this house, you can be whoever you want to be. She cried herself to sleep in my arms, and I carried her to her new room. In the living room, Jessica was staring blankly at 2 DNA reports. When she saw me, she forced a smile, but it looked hideous. You don't have to smile if you don't want to. Michael, what are you talking about? Jessica, you're surprised this child is our biological daughter, aren't you? For the sake of my family's health, I took them for annual physicals every year. The reason I had never discovered anything wrong with Leo was entirely thanks to Jessica. When Leo was 1 year old, Jessica noticed his blood type didn't match ours. She secretly took a sample of my hair and had a paternity test done with Leo. The results showed that Leo was not my child. Around the time we got married, she had been in touch with her first love. Not long after she became pregnant, he died in a car accident. They had broken up for family reasons. Her ex-boyfriend's family was poor and couldn't help support her own family. Between love and money, she had chosen money. So after he died, she never forgot him. When she found out Leo wasn't my son, Jessica naturally assumed he was her child with her ex-boyfriend. She poured all her love into protecting what she believed was his posthumous child. If it weren't for her covering it up all these years, Leo's true identity would have been discovered long ago. I looked at the woman I once loved so deeply with utter disappointment. It's heartbreaking, isn't it? You thought Leo was the product of your love for an old flame. And in doing so, you became an accomplice in a crime that let your own flesh and blood suffer. Jessica's lips moved, but she couldn't form a defense. I handed her the divorce papers. Let's get a divorce. I get custody of our daughter. Let's make this clean. I'll give you a condo and $50,000. Jessica wasn't happy. Even though I was a stay-at-home mom, marital assets are supposed to be split 50-50. This isn't fair to me. I laughed. Do I need to list how much money you've sent to your family over the years? Besides, you committed adultery. If this goes to court, I have plenty of ways to make sure you walk away with nothing. I looked her in the eye. I'm giving you a way out because you're our daughter's mother. Don't push it. After weighing her options, Jessica finally agreed to the divorce. I heard she remarried not long after, but she couldn't break the habit of sending money to her family, and her new life was a mess of constant arguments. Even the settlement I gave her was scammed away by her brother. Sharon, having confessed to everything, was sentenced to 5 years in prison. My father and Kevin escaped legal punishment, but I wasn't about to let them get away with it. I sent a detailed account of Sharon's crime and Kevin's abandonment of his son with kidney failure to the school where he worked. A teacher's character is paramount. After learning the truth, the school fired him. No matter what school Kevin applied to, I sent them a copy of the file. Unable to continue in the profession he was so proud of, Kevin was forced to take up the manual labor jobs he had always looked down on. After all his years of hard work to get a college degree, I had ground him into the dirt. There was nothing he could do about it, but rage helplessly. Maybe it was karma, but 2 years later, Kevin also developed end-stage renal disease. He and David went bankrupt trying to pay for his treatment, and they suffered immensely. The two of them came to me, begging. Kevin knelt at my feet, slapping his own face as he pleaded for mercy. Mike, I'm so sorry. I was too greedy before. Please, save me. We can't go on like this. Michael, my father begged, save your own brother. Just give him some money. Find a donor for him, please. I didn't even glance at them. I had security throw them out. A man who wouldn't even save his own son expects me to save him? Pathetic. Donate a kidney? He could go to hell. He deserved it. I renamed my daughter Sophie Thompson. With me by her side, Sophie slowly began to heal from the shadows of her past. We understood each other, we supported each other, and our life together, just the two of us, was quiet and happy.